Husband, did you know that there are 47 seasons of diners, drive-ins, and
Wait, what?
dives? Is that what it's
Seriously?
called?
Yes.
47 seasons. And it's not like these aren't like 10 episode seasons.
How
You know
many?
how 419
419
episodes.
episodes? How does that even possible?
Do you know, and that's not the only show that he does.
No, he has Guy's Grocery Games.
Yeah, there's like 300 episodes of those.
What does this guy do? And he's at all of these things.
He's in every single one. And unless you're thinking this is not Disney content,
I was thinking it's not Disney content.
well, it is because at Disney Springs they have a Guy Fieri restaurant.
All right, here we go for another episode of We Don't Talk About Disney.
Welcome to We Don't Talk About Disney, a podcast where we discuss everything Disney, from theme parks, trip planning and media to news and lore. I'm Laura, and this is my husband.
Guy Fieri.
No.
Matt.
We are partners in life and partners in our love of Disney. We believe there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day, and we are glad that you are here. This is the second episode of our Disney World Newbie series. We hope that you will find it interesting and helpful, whether you're planning your first trip or your 50th trip, but we will assume that listeners have little knowledge or experience with the parks for this series. Today, we're talking about vacation planning, which is one of my favorite parts of a Disney vacation. There are so many great resources to help you plan an amazing vacation, from blogs, YouTube channels, and official Disney travel planners. We aren't trying to reinvent the wheel, and I totally support using all those resources that already exist. But hopefully we can give you a big overview of things you might want to consider before your trip, and that will be a helpful jumping off point. Or if you're feeling like, have I remembered everything? These are kind of the things that we think about when we're planning our next vacation. So I feel like you've been traditionally, I do most of the planning for vacations, but I feel like you've been more involved as of late.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go through some different areas that, just kind of like a brief overview of, like, we talk about, like, it does take some planning to do a Disney vacation. Honestly, it takes some planning to do any kind of vacation. But here are like the kind of the key areas that might be unique to going to Walt Disney World Resort in Central Florida. The first one is transportation. So obviously any vacation is going to involve transportation. One of the first things you want to figure out is how you're getting to the resort. But we also want to talk about, how you get from point A to point B once you're in the resort. So if you've done a vacation in years past to Disney World, like pre-COVID, you may have used the Magical Express shuttle to get from the airport to your hotel if you're flying. Unfortunately, that's no longer an option. So that was a big bummer. A lot of people were really disappointed that went away. And
We used that.
we did use that our first vacation.
My first Disney memory. Now, you asked me last podcast what surprised me, and what didn't surprise me was the interaction there was with a bus driver and a patron on the Magical Express. And the guy was like, "Oh, is this thing free? I thought this would be free." And the bus driver said, "Mate, nothing's free. This is Disney."
Well, it was free. The Magical Express used to be free.
Oh, was it? Well,
It was
maybe
included,
maybe
yeah.
he's talking about something else, or maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah, I don't know. No, but yeah, the Magical Express did used to be free. But so they still have that kind of service. What they don't have anymore, and the Magical Express used to do, was you would check your blags. You would check your bag. I haven't been drinking, I swear. You would check only tea. You would check your bags at, like, your, what do you call that? The airport you're leaving from. Like,
Yeah,
when
and they just take them right to the resort.
And they would get them. You didn't have to pick up your checked bags at the Orlando airport, and they would put them on the bus for you. So that's a bummer. But they do still have that kind of service. It's just paid now. And if you go on the Disney website, there's a section for, like, how to get from the hotel. No, God, how to get to your hotel from the airport. But you have to pay for them all now. So, one way that you could get from the airport to your hotel is renting a car. Um, but the first question I was kind of thinking of that I think sometimes people have is, do I need my own car while I'm at the Walt Disney World Resort? Um, and so, no, you don't need a car. We've done it both ways. We've driven there and so had our own car, and we've flown and not had our own car. I don't know. What do you think? Do you like having your own car?
I like I like both to help our listeners out. I think they're
Yeah.
both great, which is nice because it means you may not make the most correct decision, but you can't make a wrong decision. One thing that's nice about having a car is you do have the flexibility. You get to go and come when you want to,
Hmm.
which matters, but it doesn't totally matter because there are lots of transportation options, which we're probably going to get into a little bit. There are vans, there's buses, there's boats, there's skyliners. There's lots of ways in and out that you have to wait for, but the wait's usually pretty brief.
Yeah. And all of that is free. Those like transportation options within the resort, obviously not renting a car is not free, but if you don't have your own car or you're just not using it, you can leave it at the room at the hotel.
Yeah, you do have to pay to park your car, which is a drag.
Well, see, and things change, so definitely check the website when you're booking your vacation. But as of right now, the website says if you're a resort guest, you don't have
Oh, is
to
that
pay to
right?
park at your hotel. If you drive your car to the theme park, you do have to pay
To the theme
at the
park.
theme park.
Okay.
So
Well, so you're still paying, and
yeah,
it's not cheap. And if you bring a car, you need a system on how to find your car. We
yes.
used AirTags for some things on our last trip.
Well, in your
And
car, if it has GPS, it kind of like air tags itself with your phone.
yes, that's true. That does work. Or you put an AirTag in your car, that can also work.
So if you're driving a rental car, though, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't. Yes, you may want to. The lots are massive, and you're like, oh, I'll take a picture. Yeah, you're gonna look at that picture 12 hours later, and it's gonna look like a car lot, and it's like it's not all that helpful. So you need a system to remember where your car is. If you don't drive, you don't have to do that. However, we, as we're going to talk a lot about on this podcast, we've got a wheelchair user with us, so we choose to bring a car because if you need to rent a car for whatever reason, you need to keep in mind how's my wheelchair going to fit into this
Right.
car. If you have a power chair like we have on some of our trips, it really limits the pool of rentals that you can have.
Yeah.
However, the power chair will fit in all the other options that we talked
Yeah.
about. The boat, the Skyliner, even the Skyliner, we'd be able to use
Yeah.
it. So you can take your everyone says take your mobility device, but it's a wheelchair or it's a scooter or whatever. You can take your legs and you can go on any of the options. You just may enjoy the extra flexibility of having your own car.
Yeah. And that would be the only reason. If you want to go somewhere off outside of the Disney bubble, why would you? No, just
Right.
kidding.
Yeah, what the heck? I'm already outside of the Disney bubble before I even get there.
No, if you want to go to Universal, if you want to do, something else around Orlando, um, then it might be nice to have a car. Um,
I think Ubers are expensive down there.
yes,
So
you obviously, yeah, you could Lyft or Uber, or I'm sure there's like taxi stuff too. I've never done that, but it's a big city,
if
so
you've got a manual wheelchair, we used the minivans on our first trip, and we brought a manual wheelchair, and you can request an SUV, and then you can just disassemble your manual chair and put it in the thing.
what's a minivan?
It's not a small van. I mean, I guess I suppose it is a small van, but they're these really cute little SUVs or cars or whatever vehicle.
No, they're vans.
Are they vans?
Yeah, they are actually minivans, but they're capital
I
M
swear I've been to Disney before.
NNIE.
And they're dressed like Minnie
vans.
Mouse, and they're called minivans, and they're super adorable, and they're very fast, and that's probably the best. I think they're Lyft,
Yeah,
and they're the
Lyft.
best way to travel in the resort. Like if you need to quote unquote Uber, which has like found its way into the lexicon, you're going to Lyft with a minivan. It's just because they have special access and things
I
like
think
that.
they do. So the minivans, I think and obviously when you get the Lyft app, you can see your options when you're at the theme park. And minivans, they only go within the Walt Disney World Resort.
They're not free.
So they're not free. You cannot take them like to Universal Studios, or they'll just drive you back to your hotel or to a different theme park.
Seems to make it sound like if you ask to go to Universal Studios, they'll just take you back to your hotel.
No.
Just saying.
They're like, no. No, so we'll circle back to that in a moment. But so before we jump to that topic, so if I bring my own car, if I'm parking at the theme parks, you do have to pay even if you're a resort guest. You if you have a handicap placard, just tell them when like any parking lot, you drive up and pay at the little booth. If they don't see it, just be like, "Hey, is there handicap parking?" And they'll tell you which way to go.
It's very clearly marked,
It's
and they're
super
really
clearly
good
marked.
at seeing it.
They do fill up those spots. So if you have a handicap placard that they'll still tell you park in this lot, but be aware if you have like we have
We
a
got a
wheelchair
ramp. Yeah.
van that has a ramp on the side. So be aware that the actual handicap spots fill up, and they fill up pretty quickly, especially if it's a busy
And
day.
especially at Epcot. Epcot seems to have a real lack of them.
Yeah, so they do have handicap parking. It does fill up. The other thing to be aware of, all the Hollywood Studios, water parks, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, those are pretty straightforward to park at. Magic Kingdom is a little different because Magic Kingdom has like and now I'm gonna forget the name of it. What's the body of water that's in front of Magic Kingdom? Let's look it up.
I don't
Um
recall. It's a massive, massive lake. Lagoon. I believe it's technically a lagoon.
let's see here.
Not a legume.
Not water
That would
rides.
be a peanut.
Come on now.
But it's got a massive lagoon that you have to ferry across. So parking at Magic Kingdom takes quite a bit longer than other places. You have this long walk into the place where you check your bags, and they go through everything, and you do your like little security check, and then you get on a ferry, and then that ferry ends up taking you to the park. So parking at Magic Kingdom is a little bit different, and they actually do it by design. That's a man-made lagoon they put there to help manage crowds and manage flow into the park. Because one thing that you'll notice, especially when you go to Magic Kingdom, is they stagger your entry stuff. They stagger taking your ticket and checking your bags and taxiing you over there. And it's all a way to give you this illusion that things are moving forward rather quickly when in reality you're still waiting, but you're just kind of like waiting with better scenery and waiting with walking time. It somewhat reminds me of in shows there will be a little bit of an illusion of when characters are just exposizing to each other and they're just dumping all this exposition on each other, they have them walk forward towards the camera, and so it gives you this illusion that the story is moving forward. But in reality, all of this has been to give Laura time to give. Who are you?
I'm Laura.
Oh, that's right.
I'm your wife.
That's right. All of this. Look, I can't remember who in our family has fake names and who doesn't. So, all of this has been to give Laura time, who's apparently my wife, to look up the name of this lagoon.
So you're right, it is a lagoon. So the Seven Seas Lagoon is a body of water that's between the parking lot and the theme park. And so if you drive yourself, that means you park your car, and then you're going to either, did you just say this? You're going to get on either the monorail or you're going to get on a ferry boat.
I did, but not that specifically.
Generally, people say the ferry boats are faster. They're both pretty quick, in my opinion.
I think the ferry boat feels a lot faster. I don't know. They're both probably about the same, but the ferry boat, you spend less time waiting in a line watching doors open and you not be the one to get on.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge ferry boat.
Yeah.
So, just be aware if you're deciding if driving is going to be faster, it may not be faster to Magic Kingdom because you got to do that. And if you ride like a Disney bus, you don't have to do that. They take you right to the theme park. Or the monorail also goes to Magic Kingdom. But oh, sorry.
I was just saying, look at this state of.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
Look at this state of Florida here. It's like half of it's underwater. Can you imagine living in that state?
There's a lot of lakes. Stay out of the water in Florida. That's our PSA for the episode.
Yeah.
You know what's in the water in Florida?
Rats.
Alligators.
Some call them the rats of the lagoon.
And lots of alligators. And they do actually, it's funny, I was just reading about this. They do have measures for like trying to keep gators out of the, I mean, there's just a lot of ponds and lakes around the resort because it was a swamp before it was a a theme park, and so they do have like measures to try to keep them out. But I was just reading somewhere where a cast member was like, "Yeah, but I mean, nothing literally can keep alligators out of water in Florida. So don't just swim in the pool. Don't jump in the
In the lagoon.
in the
You
lagoon
actually can get banned from Disney World if you feed the animals.
like alligators."
Well, I mean, I don't know that you'd
You might
willingly
get
feed
taken
an
out
alligator.
of the world if you feed an
I think if
alligator.
you feed an alligator, if you feed other animals, they can attract the alligators.
I don't know if that's true.
Look, what is true is you can get.
You're not supposed to feed the animals. So don't feed the animals. It's not good for them. These are our PSAs for don't get in the water, don't feed the animals. Okay, so you're
Or do both at the
on.
same time.
So that's kind of if you have a car. If you don't have a car, you're not planning to have a car, you do not need one. There are lots of free ways to get from point A to point B within the Disney bubble. There are boats, there is a Skyliner, there are buses, there's a monorail. We also talked about you can pay for an Uber, Lyft, and minivan. And that is all going to depend on what resort you stay at and which theme parks you want to go to the most is kind of what
Oh, I suppose it goes without saying, so naturally I'll say it. If you're not staying on property, you're probably going to need a car. Otherwise,
yeah.
you're going to be staying at your Airbnb.
Yeah, the only
Nothing else to go.
and we actually just did this. If you stay at a Good Neighbor hotel, they usually have a shuttle. But we'll talk about that later. But um so that might be something you want to take into consideration when you pick your resort. And if you go on, disneyworld.com and you're looking through the resorts, one of the things they'll always list in the information about each hotel, it's a little confusing because they call them resorts, but they also call the whole place a resort. So I'll call them hotels.
I heard you like
Okay.
some resorts in your resort.
Right.
So we put more resorts in
It's a
your
little
resort.
confusing. Okay. So, but the different hotels will tell you, here are your transportation options from this hotel. I mean, the buses are just buses, but they're fine. They're clean. They're wheelchair accessible.
If you need your wheelchair to get onto the bus, which obviously every wheelchair user you will, you'll want to do your best to make sure someone in your party knows how to operate.
Okay, but that was not a Disney bus.
That was not a Disney bus, but I'm just saying, you're going to want to know how the bus.
Okay, well, maybe you should tell us. Okay, so PSA against the Drury Inn, which is a bummer because I like Drury Inn.
I like the Drury Inn. It wasn't a Drury Inn bus. It was a
Well,
different
no,
bus.
but it was okay. Let's start from the beginning. So we recently stayed at the Drury Inn Plaza Hotel, which is a Good Neighbor hotel in the Disney Springs area. And we really like Drury Inns when we travel because they're kind of cool hotels. You get the food's not amazing, but if you have like picky eaters who are kids, like our kids are incredibly picky eaters, and they have dinner and breakfast at the hotel for free. That's included in your stay at any Drury Inn, not just at Disney. And that's like unheard of at Disney too. Well, Matt said somebody told, I think his memory was partially wrong, but on that first trip that someone said at Disney, nothing's free. And I mean, that's true. Um, except for the transportation within the resort. But you're technically paying for that. So we wanted to stay. Anyway, Drury Inn has free dinner and breakfast, which is cool. And we just kind of like the vibe of a Drury Inn. So we're like, okay, let's give it a try. So we were there just for a couple of days. And we tried out their transportation to the park, which is a bus, but it's not a Disney bus and it's not even a Drury Inn bus. It was like a third party
Florida Bus Service. It's called Florida Bus Service.
Now, it's possible that some of their transportation is run by the hotel, but we rode a bus 2 times and it was Florida Bus Service. And both times, you can tell us what happened.
So both times, obviously, if you're using a wheelchair, you need a ramp to get onto the bus. Well, the ramp on the bus, the mechanical part of it apparently was broken. And there's a manual override that the bus driver is supposed to be able to do to manually get the ramp down because we let people with wheelchairs ride the bus. Otherwise, that would be barbaric. So both times, neither bus driver knew how to operate the manual part of the wheelchair ramp. So we're there, standing in the rain, in the freezing cold. It's February. I know it's Florida, but it's still February and it's still raining and it's still cold. And we're just staying there and they can't figure out how to operate the ramp. So I get on the bus and I have been watching long enough here to figure out how this thing works. So I have to make the ramp work both times. So I had to get on, get the ramp out, and they have this little shimmy. It's really an annoying thing. If you ride Florida bus service and you need a wheelchair, my first recommendation is to don't. My second one is there's a little Allen wrench type tool that they have, and you have to. That you'll notice if you're looking at the floors, there'll be a little bump.
They're not going to do this.
They're going to do this. There's a little bump, and you have to wrench the thing in the little bump and pull the ramp out. Someone 8 years from now will leave us a comment and say, "Thank you for telling me about the little bump." So anyway, the point is, with this bus service, I had to do it. The bus driver didn't know how to do it. If you're a wheelchair user by yourself, then no one, and this whole process took like 40 minutes. Like no one else is going to be, that's not true. It probably took 12. But
it felt long because we're standing in the rain. And everyone, they let the wheelchair get on first. So everyone else who's wet and cold trying to get on the bus is behind us. Like, what in the heck is going on? And we felt bad, and it's not our fault. But
so the point is, if you're using a third-party bus service, just hopefully know that how the wheelchair ramp works.
Yeah, that was crazy. So we probably won't be saying Adrian again, which is a bummer because I like that hotel. If you don't use a wheelchair, I would recommend that hotel. It was nice.
Yes, it was.
And the pool was really cool, and the bar by the pool was cool, and it's a new it's been redone like in the last like 2 years. Like it was very nice. So I was gonna say too, and now we're in story hour. I guess I'll tell this story since you told that one. We talked about the minivans. So our very first Disney vacay, we stayed at the Wilderness Lodge.
Yes.
And Wilderness Lodge has a boat to get to Magic Kingdom, which was fun, and we liked doing that a lot. And has buses. That's it, right?
So yes, boats and buses.
So it has just one. So you could take, if you're staying at Wilderness Lodge, you could take the boat to Magic Kingdom, and then you can take the monorail to Epcot. You have to, I think you might have to change monorails, but either way, there is a way to get to those two parks. And then actually, monorail and Hollywood Studios are connected via the Skyliner now, but you cannot get to. The only way to get to Animal Kingdom, and then we also, Hollywood Studios and Epcot, did a bus from. We tried to do a bus from Wilderness Lodge. Sonny was 3 years old, and he had never been on a bus before, and he had just got like his first big boy manual wheelchair, and it was very adorable. And if you've, like, we were just talking about the process, when you ride in a wheelchair, if you're a wheelchair user, you're like, duh. But if you're not, FYI, when you're a wheelchair user and you ride a bus, they put the little ramp down or the lift down, you get on, it pulls you up, and then they latch your wheelchair into the bus. Buses, are kind of loud, like not crazy, but a bus is a little loud.
Like a 4-year-old, pretty loud.
But yeah, and so he was terrified of the entire process. He didn't know what they were doing to his wheelchair. He didn't want to ride this big loud bus. Like, it was just bad. And so I think we did it twice, maybe. Once I sat on the floor next to him, next to his wheelchair on the bus. And then the second ride, we tried putting his wheelchair in the bus, and he got out and sat next to us on the seat. He was still not happy. He was worried about, he's possessive of his wheelchair because that's how he gets around. And he did not like it. And so we used a lot of minivans on that trip. And so yeah, the minivan, it is a literal minivan, but painted like Minnie Mouse. And I think they are a bit more expensive than like just your average Uber or Lyft. When you get into the Lyft app, it'll price it out for your ride. But they are driven by Disney cast members. So they're pretty nice. And they also have, every minivan, I think, has 2 car seats. So if you need a quick ride and you get a minivan, they're going to have car seats. It's going to be a Disney cast member, so it's going to be a nice experience. And we fit these poor minivans. I think we had a double stroller. We had a small manual wheelchair, but it was still a wheelchair. And the 4 of us, 2 kids who needed
it all fit.
Needed car seats. And yeah, we jammed it all in there, and we loaded up, and they took us. We probably, I don't know, spent hundreds of dollars on minivans on that trip.
Wasn't having Sonny was not having the bus. So what option did you leave him there? What option do we have?
Right. So, but we were glad to have that option, and they were a really convenient. I mean, you get door-to-door service on demand, so that's nice. Okay, so I guess that's a little overview of transportation.
Do you think you'd be listening to 26 minutes of transportation talk?
Transportation talk, route talk.
There we go.
Did you ever listen to Serial season 1?
No.
That was
Well, maybe.
a famed episode of Serial season 1
Oh.
was route talk. So it was our route talk.
Maybe we'll be that big.
Yeah. I'm waiting for my Peabody in the mail. All right, lodging. So hotels.
It was more fun.
This is more fun. Okay, so if you're staying in Disney Hotel, there's 3 tiers of resort value, which is the cheapest, moderate, deluxe. They also have campgrounds, which I checked, and you can stay. You have to bring your own. Obviously, it's just a campsite, but you can stay in your RV or a tent. So hey, maybe you want to camp at Disney World. I don't know.
Yeah, nice 12-hour day at Magic Kingdom. Go back home to your unair conditioned
Sleep
tent.
on the ground.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sounds like a hoot. There's also Good Neighbor hotels, which we mentioned, the Drury. Those will I don't know. Pricing depends. They might be same price as value resorts, but you get some more amenities. You might be able to find something cheaper. It all depends.
But you are outside of the Disney bubble, and you are
sort of. Well, I mean, not. I mean, you're Disney Springs area. You're not really.
That's true, but you're outside of a lot of the Disney theming.
Yes, they're not gonna have the theming that so there's like I don't even know how many hotels to choose from. There's a lot. So rather than going through each one, and we have not stayed at most of them.
Yeah.
I thought we could just go through some questions you might want to think about when you're picking a hotel.
Cool.
One question is how much theming. Yeah, so those Good Neighbor hotels are not going to have as much theming, and the other ones vary. So some hotels, if you want to feel like I'm at Disney World and I'm living the dream, it's like Art of Animation has a ton of really cool theming.
That's probably the coolest one for theming specifically. Because we have seen the French baguette. What's it called? What's that hotel called?
Riviera.
The French Riviera. We've seen that one. We've seen the Caribbean. We've seen Wilderness Lodge, and a lot of those they're nice, fantastic resorts. But I like an experience where Disney sort of barfs all over you.
Right. And Art of Animation, there you go.
And Art of Animation is that way. We walked into our hotel room, and I think it was the cheapest hotel room, farthest from anywhere you'd want to be. Like it's the crappiest, quote unquote, thing that we could find. And you walk in, and it's a Little Mermaid everywhere. A Little Mermaid headboards. Like the sink was like a shell, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like Little Mermaid
shower curtain,
and it just looked. And there was like forks and thingamabobs all over the walls. Like it just looked like you were in Ariel's room, and it was so cool. If Ariel's the kind of person to have a shower curtain of herself, like that's kind of what it was. Just really cool. So it kind of just depends on what matters to you. Now, Pop Century is another hotel right next to it, and it doesn't have all that theming. So
it has theming, but it's not
animated
Disney like IP theming. So but yeah, that might be something you want to think about. A pool, what kind of some resorts have like a playground, like a water playground. Value resorts don't have hot tubs, so if like that you want to hang out in the hot tub, moderate and deluxe do. I said transportation, am I cool with just riding buses or also your party size. Some resorts, even a couple other value resorts have suites or adjoining rooms. So if you're traveling with a group and you want to be able to like be close together, or a lot of the hotels too sleep 5, the single room sleep 5, which is nice if you have 3 kids or your kids are pretty young and you want to just be in one room, you can do that. Something else to think about, which I certainly didn't think about initially, and you might not, is Walt Disney World Resort is huge, and some of these hotels are really big. So you may want to do a little Googling to find out how big is this hotel and how far am I going to have to walk to get to the bus or to get to the front desk of the dining room, the pool. And we mentioned Art of Animation. we stayed in a Little Mermaid room, which are the only single rooms at that resort, and that section of the hotel is the furthest from the Skyliner, and other transportation. So,
I mean,
you're walking a lot, which we're gonna talk about, and so you might not wanna have to walk another half mile, or more, when you get off the
I
bus at the
think it
end of the
ended up
night.
being like somewhere between a half mile and 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, it is pretty far. Caribbean Beach Resort is another one that, usually gets when people rate Disney hotels, it comes in lower because of its size, and you can end up being, pretty far from stuff. And you wanna think about too, how much time am I really gonna spend at the resort? Is the resort time part of my Disney time? Like Matt was saying, like he wants to be in it all the time. So I want good dining, I want good theming, or am I going to be at the park for 12 hours and I just want to come back and sleep and then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
A lot of folks really like those like the value resorts like the All-Star music movies because they're on the cheaper end, you still get the convenience of being on property. They don't have as much theming, but if you got a bunch of teenagers and you're really just gonna go back and crash and then head back to the park, and that's fine. Or if you have little ones and you think you might, or you're gonna spend a day or two at the pool, at the hotel, you might want more around. Also, oh my gosh, if you want to stay outside the Disney bubble, I mean, I guess you can. That is an option. There's, Orlando is just like a tourist destination. So there are so many options. If you want to get like an apartment or condo,
To
vacation
live
home,
there.
no. No, like
Did you get an apartment?
no, like an Airbnb. Like if
Oh,
you
I see.
want to have like a full apartment with like a kitchen and
Oh, I see.
you get your own bedroom or that can be nice. My personal opinion is gosh, I'm kind of over having the whole vacation rental
Yeah,
thing.
we got to confess to the audience that we have stayed outside of the Disney
We
bubble.
have seen. But here's my thing. So I get it when you have if you have little kids who take naps or go to bed early, having a suite or like multiple bedrooms can be really nice. And when our kids were in that stage was kind of when we did that. But for me personally, I feel like anytime we have like if we're staying in a whole condo, I feel like I spend half my vacation like doing dishes and
In
like
cleaning and taking out the trash and all that. It's like I'm
yeah,
on
it's
vacation. I do that
yeah, I
stuff
don't
at
want to do all that
home.
stuff. Yeah. So that's my con list for the Airbnb. But if you're doing a trip where like you're gonna go down for a week, 10 days, and you just want to like do a little this, a little that, it can be nice.
Well, I think it's worthwhile to don't look at the price of an Airbnb like in a vacuum because you want to look at the price and all the fees and everything like that, and you want to compare that to the room that you want at Disney, like in the Disney resort, and take the difference and be like, is this X amount of dollar difference? Like, is saving that worth dishes and being outside of the bubble and chores and all that extra stuff that goes along with it? Is
Mm-hmm.
it worth it to you for
Mm-hmm.
that? Because you can look at the price and be like, oh, this is so much lower. Then you're like, well, I'm doing all this crap. So it's
Right.
you
Yeah.
got to compare it all, not just
Well,
look at it
yeah,
in a
and I mean
vacuum.
Airbnb and what's the other one? Verbo. They are not as cheap as they once were. No matter Orlando or elsewhere, like I think their prices have gone up. In years past, I feel like it was worth it, but now I'm like, gosh, I'll just get a hotel.
I don't know that it's worth it at this point. Yeah, and they like to tack on extra fees because they know that you're not coming back. Like they know that you're just vacationing, so the landlords aren't usually very accessible. So
Yeah, though we stayed in a pretty accessible. Or what do you mean accessible? Oh,
accessible
like getting
like
to the landlord.
to reach them. Yeah, if you needed them for something, like
Yeah,
it's not always there.
yeah. All right, so that's just some thoughts on choosing your hotel, what you might want to think about. Um, the parks. We'll do certainly going to talk about specifics of the parks.
We're not going to cram all four parks into the last few minutes of this
No,
podcast.
no, no. So we're in planning mode. So you might want to think about ahead of time. What do I want to carry with me into the park? What do you carry with you into the park,
My son.
sir? Yeah. Lots of things.
So there's a lot of need to haves and wants to haves. I like to carry a backpack that is mostly empty with me into the park. And if you have little ones, you'll probably already know, but you're going to be acquiring things during your day at the park. And so it's nice to have a mostly empty backpack where you can put those things, whether it be bubble wands or popcorn or any sort of like pins or like, it's nice to have that. I carry. I used to carry cameras. I don't anymore.
Cameras.
Well, it's like the kids have their little cameras, and so like they'd be
Oh.
like little. How about this? Things that your kids want or that think that they want, don't bring them. Don't bring them. They never use them. If your kid's like, I'm gonna use my little camera that I got for Christmas from my grandma that I begged for because my sister got one and we both wanted to have the same camera, hypothetically, they'll never use it. They're too distracted by other stuff. So that's all. Don't bring that. I bring, gosh, most of what I bring is specifically for Sunny, so it's kind of hard to answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't have any thoughts.
Sunscreen. You definitely want sunscreen.
Yes. Yeah. It gets pretty sunny, and that Florida sun is pretty intense.
Carabiner. Bring a carabiner.
Yeah.
You can clip your bag that you have onto the stroller if you have one, and so it's a nice way to either carry an extra bag or not have the weight of your bag on you all day. So I think a carabiner is kind of the unsung hero of a lot of our Disney trips.
Yeah. And I guess we can talk about strollers. So, a lot of people, you might think, gosh, my 7-year-old is not going to need a stroller. He hasn't sat in a stroller in 4 years or whatever. Use a stroller. You want to use a stroller. There is so much walking, and unless your little kid is an ultra marathon runner, they're not going to be able to walk. And personally, if my kid is in a stroller, it frees me up to do what I want because I don't have to stop every 5 seconds. I don't have to carry them. I don't have to when they're tired, they can just sit in the stroller and I can mosey around and look at the stuff that I want to look at. So pretty much everybody, if your kid can fit into a stroller, use a stroller. You can rent them at the park. The ones you're going to get at the park, and you can Google and find a picture of one, I'm sure. They're just your basic like molded plastic seat with a sunshade and like a bag on the back. That might be good enough. You can also, if you don't want to fly with your stroller, which FYI, if you've never done that before, you can bring your stroller through the airport and check it at the gate. So that's an option and could help you get through the airport. But if you don't want to bring your stroller on the airport, there are some third-party rental companies where you can rent like, I'm out of stroller world, but whatever, like the brand of stroller that people, you'd have at home, like they have those kind of strollers that recline and have a nice sunshade. Yeah, Bob stroller or whatever. So that's an option too.
Speaking of bags and things that I carry with me, if you're a pro tip, one thing that can be nice is an external power source.
Yeah.
For your phone can be really nice to have. Buy them ahead of time. It's a lot cheaper than at the parks. However, subpoint to my subpoint, if you need to buy an external battery at the park, never fear, you can replace them, I believe, for free.
Yes.
You can replace them, so it's kind of like a never-ending charger. But bring a charger, which I think is really nice, an external charger. However, if you leave that in your bag during the metal scanny check, it's fine. You're allowed to do that, but it flags you, and so that's extra time that you have to spend getting your bag checked. However, strollers don't go through the metal detector, so leave your battery packs in the stroller.
And then they just visually check it. You're allowed to bring them.
You're allowed to bring them. They just visually check it. It just saves you maybe another 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all. That's PSA with Matt again.
Yeah, there you go. So another thing with the parks, you are not going to be able to do everything in one trip. These are huge theme parks. There are so many things to do. And so I think a good planning piece ahead of time might be to think through, what are your family's interests? What Disney characters are they excited about? What types of experiences are they going to enjoy? Do they want to do thrill rides? Do they want to do classic Disney stuff? Do they want to meet characters? What are they into? So you can just kind of plan, like, not that those are the only things you'll get to do, but like, okay, first we're definitely gonna ride. We're gonna meet Mickey Mouse, because that's the thing we really want to do. And so you get to do that, awesome, and then whatever else you do is great. But just kind of think through what are what kind of stuff do you want to do.
Yeah.
So
You're gonna plan. We like to set expectations with our kids.
mhm.
We're gonna ride this ride once. We're not gonna be able to do this. So it's like it's not hard and fast, but if you set the expectation, we're just not gonna be able to do everything. Then that kind of helps the little ones when they get there.
And you.
And you.
Yeah, it
don't
doesn't
expect to do
spoil
everything.
your trip. Well, and that's the thing too. Now, caveat. Also, you can think about what generally things you want to do, but do not hang your whole trip on one ride or one experience.
Especially if that ride is Rise of the
Rise of the
Resistance.
Resistance. It's an awesome ride. It goes down every single day.
I think it's down more than it's up. Honestly.
Yeah, like it
it's
goes down a lot.
It's a great ride, and it's down a lot. So it is a good way to make sure that you have a good trip. For example, say like, as a listener, I'm going to tell you how to think and feel.
Mhm.
Say like, I want to experience the Star Wars area at Hollywood Studios. That's a good goal. To say I want to ride Rise of Resistance is a bad goal, because you can experience Star Wars World. If every single ride is down, you can still experience the area.
Yeah.
Um,
And some Star Wars rides will be up, but yeah.
Yeah, and some will be up. And also, I think the same is true for characters. Most character meet and greets you're going to be able to do.
Well, and it's like Mickey. Like there's a Mickey in
Evergreen
every
characters,
park.
are going to be there. But if you're like, I really hope I get to see Pocahontas, sometimes the less popular characters just aren't out.
You can't meet Pocahontas. I'm sorry.
So if you really wanted to meet Pocahontas, and you made it this
You
far.
may as well
I'm
just stay home.
very sorry.
So in that vein, I thought that we could just do like a really brief. We're gonna go through each of the 4 parks and like what are like the main things, areas, vibe, characters that you'll see in that park. So you can kind of just get your mind thinking about like, okay, like we're definitely need a full day at Epcot or what have you. Okay, first park, Magic Kingdom. So what are like the main characters, attractions, vibe, princesses?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I mean you can fill in. We're just
okay,
spitballing
gotcha.
here. Princesses. If princesses are your thing, you're gonna want to go to the Magic Kingdom and spend a lot of time there.
Yes.
Classic Disney. That's where you
That's
got Pirates of the Caribbean.
And this is my thing. I love Fantasyland. If you remember Aurora and you remember Snow White, like that's your classic. If you watched any Disney from a kid, this is where it is.
Yep, all those like classic characters, classic stuff. There's a Toy Story ride, but there's more, a Buzz Lightyear ride at Magic Kingdom.
If you could do one park, that's the park you're doing.
Yeah, or if you've never been to Disney, that's where the castle is.
Doesn't serve alcohol.
There's no, well, the table service
outside of table service doesn't serve alcohol.
Yes, yeah. No, none of the quick service places have alcohol at Magic Kingdom.
All the other parks do. Magic Kingdom does not.
Does Animal Kingdom? Yeah, I guess it does.
Oh yeah. I mean,
right.
Yeah. I've heard.
Maybe that's what you're right to. Okay, Epcot. Epcot is also pretty classic Disney.
Food.
The food. So at Epcot, there's 2 sides of the park. The front of the park, which I call Future World, and that's not what it's called. They've kind of been revamping it, so there's like new
Guardians of the Galaxy.
There's new. So the front of the park is where like the Epcot ball is. There are some classic Disney
Spaceship
Earth, and like Figment.
But it's also got the thrill ride. It's got the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, the Cosmic Rewind.
Yeah, Cosmic Rewind is an awesome. If you are like roller coasters, I say that's probably the best roller coaster at Disney World.
You think so?
Well, or Tron. But Tron, no,
it depends.
Cosmic Rewind, like experience is so cool. Like
it's very cool.
It's my favorite.
Even if you don't care about Guardians of the Galaxy, if you've never seen Guardians of the Galaxy, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it really doesn't matter. It's a very cool roller coaster. And there's a new Moana area, which is very interactive and very cool. That's also in the front of the park,
cool.
where you can manipulate the water with your hands and things like that.
So kind of Epcot's vibe is kind of like, as the front of the park, it's like futuristic, but also like conservation, being in touch with the earth.
The front of the park can't figure out what it wants
It's
to
a
be.
lot of different things. The back of the park is the
World Showcase.
World Showcase. That's what it's called. And that's where a lot of people are like, I'm going to drink around the world. I'm going to eat around the world, desserts around the world, whatever. Because so you go to different countries. Each country has some kind of.
There will be a savory. Basically, at every country, you can expect.
Oh, it's going to talk about more than food.
Why? Okay, I'm going to talk about food while she goes and gets her life in order. So every country has three things that are edible that you're going to think. There's a savory dish that's going to be quite tasty. There's a sweet dish that's going to be quite tasty, and then there's a drink that's going to be really good. They change a lot, so I can't really tell you what they are. I can tell you there's almost no reason to do a sit-down meal at Epcot, which we'll talk more about later, because the pickings that you get from each country are just so gosh darn
best snacks.
delicious.
If you do a dining plan and you get a snack on your dining plan, you might want to save all your snacks and just use them at the World Showcase.
That's what we do.
Like they're really good. Epcot's definitely a more adult vibe.
Yes.
I'd say they have stuff for kids, but it is a little more grown up. There are not as many rides at Epcot. So
which has the trickle down effect if the wait times are a lot longer.
Yes, but there are some cool rides at Epcot. So I would say if you're a ride person, don't skip Epcot because there's some really cool
If you're a
rides.
Frozen fan, don't skip Epcot.
Frozen, yeah. There's that's where the Frozen ride is. What are the main characters at Epcot? They have in the World Showcase, there are some princesses to meet. There's also, if you can't get
Asha is at Epcot.
Right now, Asha's at Epcot, and she's our favorite. We're big Wish fans.
Our daughter did her hair like Asha. We love Asha. Yeah, and she's at Epcot. And she's not very popular, so there's not really a wait.
Yeah. For now. We hope she sticks around for a while. So not as many rides, there's cool rides. There are princesses to meet. Oh, this is what I was saying. So if you want to do character dining, which is, if you're not familiar, character dining is a sit-down table service restaurant. They usually cost more than your average table service. Some of them, if you have dining plan, will take 2 of your meal credits, but you get to meet a lot of characters, or well, it depends. They're just a more experience associated meal. We like to do those with Sunny because he doesn't eat a lot. So we feel like he still gets to have an experience and have a fun time, even though he's not, enjoying as much of the food as the rest of the family. But if you really want to Cinderella's Royal Table is at Magic Kingdom. And what is the Beauty and the Beast restaurant called?
Be Our Guest.
Be Our Guest restaurant. We love them. And people have differing views. We feel like they're worth it. They're really cool. So, but if you really want to have a princess dining and you can't get either of those, I can never remember how to use Akershus. There's a restaurant on the
Gesundheit
World Showcase side of Epcot that has princesses. So that's another option there. Might be a reason to do a table service at Epcot if that's something you want to do. Okay, Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios was originally called MGM Studios. So if you're like, I haven't been to Disney World in 20 years, you can get caught up. That's called Hollywood Studios now. Hollywood Studios is a cool park. They also, I would say I think they have even less rides than Epcot does. There's not a whole lot of rides.
Very few. Speaking of Epcot, one last thing. The World Showcase, it's very, very well done from every country. It's designed by people from the country. It's not hokey. It's not like pedantic. It's not like lame. It's people come from all over the world to their country, and they're very proud of it. Mm-hmm. So it's not hokey. It's actually legitimately awesome.
Some of the coolest, if you are looking for unique souvenirs, World Showcase is a great place to go. There's a lot of cool stuff you can find.
You can even buy an oyster which has a pearl in it, and you can pop the pearl open and make jewelry out of it. Yeah, we saw someone do it while we were there. Neat. Cost effective, I'm sure. Anyway, Hollywood Studios.
Hollywood Studios. Not as many rides. You're going to want to definitely spend some time at Hollywood Studios if you are a Star Wars fan primarily. All of the Star Wars stuff is at Hollywood Studios, right? There's not anywhere else.
There's not anywhere else. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Toy Story is a really cool area. That's where the Slinky Dog roller coaster is. It's super neat, very cute. There is a Frozen show, so if you're a Frozen fan, you probably wanna do that, and that's where there are some iconic Disney things. I consider, like, the Indiana Jones show is a
It's
pretty
an iconic
iconic,
thing.
like, I remember seeing that on TV when I was a kid and thinking that was cool when I got to see it in real life.
There's Disney Junior stuff there, and there's not Disney Junior stuff anywhere else.
That is true. There's a Disney I always wanna call it a Disney Junior Dance Party, but
That's
that's
what we
not
call
what
it.
it's the Disney Junior Play and Dance. It's a show. I mean, my kids are 8 and 9 when last time we went, and they still had a blast. They like it. So
And
it's
there's lots
cute.
of characters. If you want to meet characters, they've got some of the classic ones that are
If
there.
you're a grown up just traveling with teens, I don't know if I would do the Disney Junior Play and Dance. It's
No, I
definitely
wouldn't.
it's directed at
People who watch Disney Junior.
preschool, right. But it's cute and it's fun. And then they also have a couple of Disney Junior characters. I don't do they rotate or is it's like Fancy Nancy,
It's all so every time we've
Vampirina,
gone, it's been Fancy Nancy, Vampirina, and Doc McStuffins.
Dog McStuffins.
It's always been those three when we've
Okay.
gone. I don't know if it's always going to be those three, but when we've
Yeah, I
been
said they
there,
would update. Those aren't really like
popular
current
anymore.
shows
No.
anymore.
If you have a Star Wars fan with you, just plan on spending your day in the Star Wars area.
Oh yeah, just hang out there, and there's some really
It's
cool
so
experiences.
cool. It's so awesome. It's worth the extra effort to do those things.
Yeah.
And even if Rise of Resistance is down, you can make a lightsaber, which is really cool. You can make a droid, which is really cool. You can go to, a bar, even if you don't want to drink. You go inside this bar and you feel like you're in a Star Wars bar and Han Solo is just gonna pop out
Yeah,
at you.
it's
Like
very,
it's
very
really
cool.
cool. There are droids all over the place. Like it's the newest area in the parks, and it's probably the most well done area.
That might be
in
the
parks.
coolest area in any Disney park. Do you think that's true?
Yes,
I mean,
would
it's
say
not my
this.
favorite just because I like Star Wars, but I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. But yeah, I mean, just you can't. It is well done.
If you don't know anything about it, I'll tell you this: Star Wars fans love it.
There
Star
you
Wars
go.
fans don't like anything. They
Yes,
don't like anything.
that is true.
Star Wars fans love this
Yes.
thing, so that tells you how good it is. Also, it's so good. Sorry, our kids and us really don't care about Star Wars. Our kids have never heard of Star Wars. I'm alienating us to a lot of people, but it just hasn't been a thing. Our kids are scared of like.
I mean, look, we watch like Mandalorian. It's not like we don't know anything
Right,
about
but
Star
our
Wars.
kids
But
our kids don't, and they loved it. They loved everything.
Yeah.
So it's so cool that even if you're like, I'm not that into Star Wars, like if you're into having a good time, then you're gonna like this place.
Yeah. So, last and maybe least in our opinion.
In our opinion, not my brother's opinion.
Yes.
This is the destination park for my brother.
Yeah. The last park we haven't talked about is Animal Kingdom. If you have a kid who's into dinosaurs, who's into animals, who loves the zoo, who you're gonna love it. It's not our favorite park just because the IP that happens to be there are not our favorites. There's a Lion King show, there's a Finding Nemo show. So if you're
Is Bugs Life still there, or is that gone now?
it is there for now. There's
Okay.
it's not Bugs Life, it's
tough to be a bug.
It's tough to be a bug. Our children hate that show. It's about bugs and it's kind of gross. I mean, they don't like the bugs. So I can't. Yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do?
Avatar stuff is there.
Avatar, not the Airbender, the other one, the blue people.
The
area
boring one
is very cool.
The area is awesome.
It is kind of funny though, because again, it's like the IP doesn't keep us coming. Oh, if you're an Up fan, there are some cute things. There is not an Up ride, but there is.
It's a very immersive park.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. If you're a nature path, if you're really into nature, you'll probably like this park.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really cool Easter eggs that maybe we'll talk about them a bit more in the Animal Kingdom episode. But there's a lot of cool Easter eggs of like the way they do things on the ground and stuff like that. And
yeah, it's neat.
It's got good food. It really does. It's got cool themed food. There is a safari, which is pretty awesome. There's goats. You can go pet goats if you like goats.
Yeah, that's actually pretty fun. There, if you are like sick, if you're on your vacation and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting motion sick on rides, or you're not crazy about rides, there's some really neat walkthrough things that you
and
don't
shows.
have to, and shows, yeah. So yeah, I think that's a brief overview of.
If you have a kid who's a wheelchair user and they like a little bit of attention, goats, especially at Disney, love wheelchairs.
Yeah,
they all the goats went around our son, And he was just like, "Hi, hi, hello, hi, goats." And so they just, for whatever reason, they love wheelchairs. So
Yeah.
it could be a fun thing.
Disney goats, they know about wheelchairs.
Mhm.
All right, next we're going to talk about dining. We have touched on this a little bit. The Disney dining plan is back. It went away after COVID, but it's come back now. There are 2 dining plan options. One is, well, okay, so there's also 2 kinds of restaurant. Well, 3. There's quick service restaurants in the theme parks. There's table service restaurants. And there's places that just have snacks, like your popcorn stand kind of thing. So if you do the quick service plan, you get 2 quick service meals a day, 1 snack, and then you also get a refillable mug. They're just all like plastic. I don't know. Some people like them and collect them. I personally think they're kind of ugly. They're probably like the only thing. I don't pretty much love all the Disney kitschy stuff. Those refill. I just don't like drinking out of a plastic mug. It's weird. Anyways, maybe you do,
I
and
married
that's
an
a selling.
elitist.
It's a selling point for you to get your refillable mug.
Before you think anything weird of us, we collect every popcorn bucket we've ever had at Disney.
Oh, I love a popcorn
So
bucket.
we love eating out of plastic.
Yeah.
We don't like drinking out of plastic, just to be clear.
Well, I don't. You can. I just don't think it tastes good. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you can do your quick service. You can do your, they call it the Disney dining plan, which you get 1 quick service, 1 table service, 1 snack, and then you get your little mug. We have found in our family that the dining plan really isn't worth the money, at least at this stage of our life. We have 2 kids that are extremely picky eaters, like diagnosably
One of them
picky
is, yeah.
eaters. And the other one's borderline. So a lot of times we bring snacks with us into the park, which you are allowed to do, and then we just, buy things that they're going to eat. The benefit is it's one price. You can lump it in with your vacation. You don't have to worry. It's paid for. It's done. I think if you're traveling with a big group, now I did do a trip like that when I was in college. I went with like my parents and my sister and her family, and we had the dining plan then, and that was great because as I was like 19 or something, I could go off on my own and just use my
that freedom, yeah.
credits when I wanted to, and my dad didn't worry about us having to give us a credit card or something. So if you have teens or young adults, that might be nice way to do that if you like the idea of paying in one lump. You can make the price worth it if you are going to order, and you should, if you've got the dining plan, order steak with your meals. If you get alcoholic drink included with your definitely with the table service meal. I don't think with quick service. But yeah, if you're gonna do all that, and it's not like it's a ripoff or anything. We just find that if we have to pay it for a whole dining credit for one of our kids, it's just not really worth it.
You do still have to tip, right?
For table service, you do still have to tip.
So it's a good idea. Now at least I don't think when you pay ahead of time with a dining plan, I'm not totally sure that they tell you the cost of everything that you get. And so the bill comes to tip and it's like $0 tip. So just while you're ordering, try to make somewhat of a mental note so you know how much to tip, because you can get banned from the Disney parks by not tipping. You can, if you mistreat cast members,
you're not going to get banned from the Disney parks for tipping.
Waitresses, you heard her. Get your pitchforks.
Lies.
It's not a lie. It's true.
You should tip, but they're not going to kick you out for tipping. Okay. You can table service restaurants and a couple of lounges you can book dining reservations for, and you should. They open up 60 days before your trip, before the first day of your trip. I believe it's 7 a.m. And especially those Cinderella's Royal Table or Space 220 is a new restaurant in Epcot that a lot of people are into. Can be really hard to get those reservations for. Now, if you don't book them, you can still find table service options. You're going to use your My Disney Experience app, which you should just download now if you don't already have it. You can look on there and say you're at Hollywood Studios and you're like, gosh, we're really tired. We'd like to just sit down and have a meal. People cancel all the time. There's openings, so you will be able to find something. You're just not guaranteed. Any other dining thoughts, Matt?
Drinks aren't included. Like alcoholic drinks aren't included. You have to buy those yourself.
They're included in a table.
Oh, is that right?
Table service meal you go in, yeah.
I think that if you're wondering if it's worth it, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and you can find the price breakdown and folks, and I don't, it changes. I know it used to be they would say estimate like $15 per person per quick service meal if you're just paying yourself, and like I don't remember what table service varies depending on.
It depends on where you want your level of anxiety, which side you fall on. Because if you have these table service meals, then you have it. It's in the middle of your day and it breaks up your day, which can be good. But you have another thing you have to get to because they
Mhm.
don't let you move it. You
No.
just lose it. So that can be a level of anxiety, but it also can give you, I'm going to have a break
A
at this
break
time,
and
and it's
getting
a
the air
structure.
conditioning.
We prefer to not, for the most part,
Yeah.
have that. Um, Also, in with the exception, if you want to do Cinderella's Castle or Be Our Guest or eat at a very specific restaurant, you should definitely book that ahead of time. If you're like, don't feel like you've missed out though, if you halfway through your day you're like, it's raining, I want a table service restaurant, you can find fantastic
Yeah.
restaurants that you can walk into. Those big ticket ones though, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Crystal Palace, I think is one too at Magic Kingdom, that are like, because that's where Winnie the Pooh and all his friends are.
Mhm.
Outside of the big ones, you're not gonna be able to eat there, but you'll be able to do table service anywhere you
Yeah,
want
yeah,
if you
definitely.
happen to want to do it. Don't feel like you've missed it. So it depends on where you want your anxiety. We like to roll with it a bit more because our kids don't like to eat. Um, we do, they don't, and they make a big fuss about how much they don't want to be eating when we're at table service. So we found it's not quite worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have some foodies, maybe it's worth it.
All right. As we're wrapping up, I thought we could just talk a little about like preparing like your physical self for a Disney vacation. Now, if you're someone who's like, you run marathons or you're really into CrossFit, I mean, you probably, or you're under 30, you may not have to worry about these things. But you should be prepared mentally and physically to walk a lot.
20,000
Um,
steps, 7 miles, 7 or 8 miles.
Summary, yeah. So we've tracked our steps after Disney vacays, and like I'd say most days we hit 18, 20,000 steps.
And that's with careful planning. So
Yes.
without camera, if you're going all over the place, if you're chasing ride wait times, if that matters more to you than systematically going through the park to minimize walking, you could easily be at 10 miles a day and
Yeah.
28,000 steps.
Which is again is why we said if your kid can fit in a stroller, bring a stroller.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to bring a wagon into the park, FYI. Do you have any? Matt is a runner of sorts.
I'm a
What
runner.
are your like
Well,
prep for
half of our Disney trips, I went running on our off days. So,
weirdo?
if you're a runner, the Art of Animation and the Pop Century resorts share a lake that has a running path around it, which
Mhm.
is really gorgeous and quite fun to run around. So if you're planning and
Okay,
you
what
want,
if you're like, I am not, I don't know, like I'm not in running walking shape.
so if you look at your Apple Watch, your pedometer, and your average daily steps for the year is like 7, like that kind of person.
It's rude. I don't know why you're targeting me.
What you want to do
Mm.
is, it's nice to plan ahead of time. So I'm just going to give you the perfect scenario where if you've got tons of time, you'd want to increase your daily steps or your like average steps by about 10% a week. That prevents injury. That gives your muscles and your tendons and everything enough time to catch up with the increased strain that you're putting on them. I'm not just a runner, I'm also a nurse and a nurse educator, so I've got lots of health background. So you don't want to hurt yourself. You especially don't want to hurt yourself before a Disney trip. That would be a disaster.
Or on your trip.
Or
Yeah.
on your trip. So you want to increase your walking workload by about 10% a week. And it sounds kind of slow, but if you give yourself a good 12 to 16 weeks, which if you're listening to this podcast, you're definitely the kind of person who's going to put more than 12 or 16 weeks worth of lead time into your trip. And you don't want to do it all in one day. So let's say you're currently at 5,000 steps. That's like that's what you can do. You'd want to increase maybe 5,000, 5,500, and up 10% there. And you would spread that over maybe 3 days. So you do your 5,000, take a break. 5,000, take a break. You don't want to do your training days back to back if you can help it, because you don't want to strain your muscles because they're not used to doing all this walking. and also your shoes need some time to recover. It can be wise, if you really want to min max everything, to bring 2 pairs of shoes, because when you go out for a long 7, 8, 10 mile run, your shoes need about a day to recover from that, to get all their
It's
springy,
so weird.
all their well, they're foam, so they need to
Yeah.
like unsquish themselves. So you could bring 2 pairs of shoes and just do every other. Um, I've never done that. It's something I've always wanted to do, but I've just never quite
I
had
never
the
have
extra
like
space.
2 pairs of really comfy shoes.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's true
usually my
too.
issue too. So.
That's true too. But you just, you want to increase about 10% a week, and you want to try to not do it every day, at least do every other day. But you have to be intentional about it, or the trip will sneak up on you and you'll regret it. The other thing that I prep for a lot is our son needs transferred in and out of rides. He uses a wheelchair, and he's unable to bear any weight or to walk at all. So he needs lifted on and off rides.
What does he weigh now? 70 pounds?
He weighs 70 pounds now. So you'll also want to prep to be able to do deadlifts. You have to deadlift. If you're transferring another person to even if there's someone who can stand and pivot, and maybe like an elderly parent.
That's a good point.
Something.
You might be, are you going to be pushing someone in a wheelchair who doesn't normally use a wheelchair, so you're not used to doing that?
Yeah.
That might be something you think about.
Yeah, Sonny and I would go on jogs pushing his wheelchair to kind of prep for doing that. You want to do your best to simulate what you're going to be doing there. And just to make a short story long, you'll want to be able to try to increase your lifting in whatever way it is that you do that. There are plenty of I never go to a gym. I bought a medicine ball because they're fun, but there's plenty of body weight workouts that you can do that will increase your core. You want to focus on your core strength, because when you're lifting, you're using your abdominal muscles. You're not really using your arms. So, I mean, you can be, but primarily you're using your abdominal muscles, your chest, things like that, your back. So you want to strengthen your core so you don't throw your back out. That would just be a really awful way to spend your trip.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about all the details of transferring and stuff like that too, but just think about what your physical workload will be, not just the walking. If you're going to be carrying a backpack for 12 hours a day with
baby wear, a lot of we never did that, but a lot of people like baby wear in the parks. So, like, do you normally baby wear while you're walking 5 miles? You might want to try that out.
Right. So you try to simulate that just so you have a better time.
That's it too, and I've said this before, do not be afraid to use a mobility device if you need one. And I would also recommend, if you are planning to rent a wheelchair because you don't normally need one, but you're not able to walk all of that, I would recommend renting a wheelchair not from the theme park, but from a third party medical rental place. And there are tons. If you just Google like Orlando wheelchair rentals, you want to rent a wheelchair that's not a transport chair. A transport chair is the type of chair that like folds up. You might see it like in the hospital lobby to get you to, your car, that kind of thing. If you rent a wheelchair from a medical place, it'll be a more like standard wheelchair, like a cushion gel foam seat, and they're a lot easier to push. So, and to push yourself if you're gonna, push with your arms. You can also rent like a motorized scooter, which is a good option too. So you don't need to push or, move your wheels yourself. Yes. Okay. So let's also talk about weather. Florida weather can be intense. We mentioned getting stuck in the rain waiting for the bus. It rains a lot. It rains year round. It's hot in the summer. And I feel like fall, winter, spring, it could be anything. It can get below freezing. It can be 100. No, it's probably not gonna be 100 degrees in the winter, but it gets up in the 80s in the winter, and so it can vary a lot. So you want to be prepared for that. I like to plan so far in advance, and I would love to be able to do my packing like months in advance. But if you're traveling in the dead of summer, it's going to be hot, it's going to rain, it's going to storm. So you can pack to prepare for that. In the winter, I would recommend waiting until it's like the week before, 2 weeks before, and you can kind of plan out like, okay, this is the sort of weather that I'm gonna get. Um, we mentioned sunscreen. The sun is really intense and you can get burnt, especially I'm a fair person. So you want to be aware of that. And the rain can be bad. We had a one trip we took in the summer and it stormed like crazy every single day. Now, in the summer when it storms, it usually doesn't rain all day. So don't feel like if you look at your forecast and it says rain, 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 your trip's going to be ruined. Probably what's going to happen is there's going to be a chunk of the afternoon where it thunderstorms and it's kind of intense and then it clears up and it's fine.
You get a full day of rain in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, those can be great park days though,
Yeah.
because those storms really clear out the parks and a lot of people with little kids and things, or they just decide, and we're gonna, take a break in the middle of the day. So those can be good park days. Something to be prepared as we're talking about walking and like preparing your feet. What if you're prone to blisters? I'm prone to getting blisters in my shoes. If your shoes get wet, you can get real bad blisters. So some folks, and I've never done this, they wear these they're almost like little like rain jackets for your feet that you can put over your shoes. You could bring like maybe like some flip-flops or sandals to change into while it's raining and then put your sneakers back on. Just be aware of the weather. It's just part of being a Disney. And rain, shine, I mean, they don't close the parks. They'll always be there. The last thing I wanted to talk about was to prepare your expectations. This is just some kind of things I think about anytime I'm going to travel. Traveling is stressful. Some of that's good stress. It's exciting and it's fun. But it can also be really stimulating. And so we just kind of need to be aware of that. Where our routine is off, things are different, things might not go the way you expect them to go, tensions can rise, it can cause fights. We went just a couple years ago and some of for whatever reason there was like a trend. I don't know who was selling them. I don't think they were like Disney brand shirts, but a lot of families had these like happiest blank on earth. So it'd be like happiest mom on earth t-shirt, and then dad would have a happiest dad on earth, like happiest grandma on earth. And inevitably I would catch these people in these moments where like they're hot, they're tired, they're 2-year-olds and screaming for an hour. And it was just so funny seeing these people like, yeah, really looking really happy right now.
Yeah, look thrilled.
But that's normal. And so I think that what helps is to prepare your expectations. The family that you have at home is the same family you're going to have on vacation. If your 2-year-old is a monster when they don't get their nap at home, they're going to be a monster when they don't get their nap on vacation. And just having that expectation. This last trip we took, before we went, we were like, you know what, we have these 2 kids who cannot agree on anything. One says black, the other has to say white. One wants to do this, the other has to do that. And yes, that's something that we work on at home when we're on vacation. It's not really the time to work on that.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, you know what? This might be the trip where we get some one-on-one time with our kids, and mom's going to do this with one kid and dad's going to do the other thing with the other kid. And we actually did end up doing more things together, I think, than we prepared on. But having that expectation makes a big difference. If you're, and even yourself, whatever you're going through, your personality, your likes and dislikes, all those come with you on vacation. So just, I think that when at least for me, I love planning. So it all seems so exciting and fun when you're in the planning stage, that you can kind of have this like, it's going to be so magical, and it will be so magical, but just recognize that when people are hungry, they're cranky, and that is just life and having a human body. And that was our summer trip. It was so hot and it rained so much. That was something that I really had to watch for myself, because when it's really hot, I don't feel like eating. And I would and it would be like 2-3 o'clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel terrible. I'm like, oh, because I've eaten next to nothing today. And I have to like make myself be like, it's lunchtime, I'm eating lunch. So yeah, just watch your expectations and and you'll enjoy yourself. You'll have a good time.
I don't really have anything to add to that. I think it's all very well said. Don't let a couple of bad moments ruin the whole day.
Yeah.
Because there will be bad moments.
Yeah.
But as long as you can rebound from them, they'll just be moments you forget about.
Yep. And honestly, kids don't remember that stuff.
Nope.
So we actually went on that trip I went on with my extended family, had some kind of negative things happen with health related stuff on that trip, and the family members who are kids on that trip look back and are like, that was the best vacation I've ever had. And I mean, I did have a lot of fun on that vacation.
Yeah.
But I remember the things that were not so great, and they don't. Like, they're just like, it was great. Like, we were never had more fun. So a few bad moments are not going to spoil your kids' memories either. And yeah.
Do we actually end on topic?
We ended on topic.
Hour 20 minutes in, I guess we may as well.
Hey, I feel like that. I mean, an hour and 20 minutes to go for Disney vacation planning is really lightning speed. We went over a lot.
We went over a lot. So if you're still with us, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you hanging with us. What are we doing next? We don't know.
I don't know.
We're doing something next.
We're doing something next. Maybe theme parks. Maybe we'll do a more deep dive on each theme park, I think.
Yeah. We should probably start with Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
I think that sounds good. Though if you're listening to this, it's not going to matter to you because you probably found it
later, and you already know what we're going to do next.
And they're all here.
All right.
So we'll see you next time on We Don't Talk About Disney. I'll see everybody later at my restaurant that's called
Chicken Guy.
Chicken Guy.
No.
No?
It's not our vibe.
Well, I do the editing, so it's our vibe.
When you're talking loudly towards me, I can smell your breath. So don't do that.